Welcome to episode 25 of Flag Stays Down podcast. Gianfranco Zola episode number 25. Boys, I don't know about you. It's 50 degrees here in Milwaukee. So, man, I'm sure you're loving it. But spring's here until tomorrow when it snows. But I'm happy. Hope you guys are happy. Parker, welcome back to not vacation land. How's North Carolina?
North Carolina was sweet. Yeah, I got a call from my pops and said, "Hey, do you want to come down and see a Duke game?" And so I don't feel like he turned down many chances to see Coach K coach in his final season, especially when the last game is the North Carolina Duke matchup. So I can't afford those tickets, so I'll take this one. So had a great time. I've been up since 3 o'clock this morning, so a little bit tired, but happy to be back in Minnesota. And I have off tomorrow for President's Day, so fuck it, we're here and we'll hang out.
Any consolation, your hair looks great for being up since 3 a.m. So I will give you credit there.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah, things are good here. Collins, like you said, nice weather. I was kind of out and about today, did some work in the garage, was able to throw the TV on now that I can open up the garage door and actually not freeze my ass off. So that was fun. Yeah, it was a good day all around. Did a little bit of grilling today as well. So I'm right in my element, right where I need to be.
I feel like we haven't done it in a while. And so I'm going to ask because I'm drinking something awful. It's a fistful of bourbon, more like fistful of shit. But Parker, what are you drinking?
The opposite. I have Whistle Pig Rye. And it's really, really good. So, yeah, loving that. It's delicious. So definitely not a fistful of shit. What about you, Matt?
I'm getting a little fancy tonight. I have myself a brandy Manhattan.
Okay.
Actually, it's really super cheap. You can get like a 175 of like shitty brandy for like $15, and then to get like sweet vermouth, to get like a full liter of it's like $6. And you just make multiple drinks out of it. So it's cheap, it's all alcohol, and it works.
There you go.
All right. So we got the drinks flowing. Kind of needed it yesterday for Chelsea's 1-0 squeaker of a win against Palace. Hakim Ziyech with the winner with 90 seconds to go. I can't remember. I honestly cannot remember the last time Chelsea scored a game winner that late. It was frustrating. It was amazing. I was jumping out of my living room. Parker, I'm sure it was great. Down at the RDU Blues. Just initial reactions from the match, boys.
We looked like shit. Let's just throw that out there. We looked like shit. We could not string together passes, and it was very uncharacteristic of the Chelsea team that we've come to expect. Not necessarily in recent months, so to speak, but as you look at everything overall under Tuchel, it's not what we have come to know. I was very disappointed with how we played. Defensively, yeah, we're sound. Midfield and the wings, it's just bad. With the exception of Ziyech's goal and everything like that, but I mean Christian, I don't know what game he was playing. It wasn't football. He couldn't find anybody within 5 yards of him, and even when he tried to, it wasn't even close. So, you hate to see it, but at the same time, like you got to do better. And I know we're going to get to this. It is a very hot topic with all of us right now. Rom, he could have been a statue and probably produced more just getting hit by the ball. I didn't see enough out of him, and that's something that we've kind of been seeing lately, which is frustrating. But I don't know. Overall, I wasn't concerned defensively. They did have a stretch kind of in the start of the second half where I think it was the start of the second half or maybe close to the end of the second half where they were pressing us a lot, and they had a lot of good chances and a lot of good set pieces. But at the same time, I trust our defense to handle their own. It was from the offensive side of the ball where we really struggled to kind of piece things together.
It was a tough game to watch. I was kind of on pins and needles. Collins, like you said, I got to hang out with the RDU Blues, which were awesome. They great hosts and really cool atmosphere at the My Way Tavern in Raleigh. So shout out to those guys. They were sweet and welcoming, and got to drag my dad to a Chelsea match, which I don't get to do too often. So that was kind of fun as well. But it was one of those matches where I felt like after the offsides goal, it wasn't going to happen for us. I thought like we were going to, it just was going to end in a draw. We're going to concede late. We had that great play. Ramos offsides, and Ziyech gets a goal, and it was great. But after that, it just, didn't feel like we had it. It felt like that was our one time to really strike. So kind of a miracle worker with Ziyech, and then the sub Alonso, kind of the super sub, and doing what we've seen him do, which is produce offense. He still can't defend worth shit, but he can definitely throw a ball in. And it's kind of the biggest difference for me for what Malang Sarr is versus Marcus Alonso. One defends a little bit better than the other, and the other is a lot better on the offensive side. So game where you would hope to win, and you got to win ugly sometimes. So you take the 3 points, you pack it away, and you get out of the London Derby alive. So happy to win it. Didn't love everything I saw, but happy to win it.
And I don't know if you guys saw Tuchel's comments to Nazar Kinsella, who's the Chelsea correspondent for Goal, but he basically said it was a lot of jet lag. It was there's colds running around the team, lack of sleep after winning the Club World Cup, and basically just said, we were drained and exhausted. They were trying hard, but it doesn't look like they were trying hard because of all of that. I don't know how much I put into it. I noticed something was off with Tuchel. We didn't see him at all up on the sideline during that match. Never once storming around, throwing his arms in the air like he normally is at someone. It was a lot of just sitting there kind of stoically. So I believe that he didn't expect much out of the team. But I don't know, us three, we're three former collegiate athletes. How many times were we told, none of that stuff is an excuse? You got to show up for the games that you have scheduled, the games that you are, in this case, getting paid to come to and perform your best. It was rough to watch, and from quite a few different areas of the pitch.
Well, one thing about Tommy T is you have to remember he's coming off of that positive COVID test. Whether he had it or not, you don't know. Obviously, he tested positive, so you have to take that into consideration. And I've had it, so it wipes you out. Like it really does. So for him not to be as eccentric and as flamboyant as he normally is on the pitch, especially on the touchline, I'm not surprised by that. And I can definitely understand the jet lag. You go play in Abu Dhabi, you have Mendy who just came back from AFCON, so he had to do that, then come back to the squad, then go back to Abu Dhabi, then to come back. So I can definitely understand that. And when you have the whole team that's also making that trip, and if there is a cold, hopefully it's not COVID, but if there is just a cold running through the club, I get it. But at the same time, you could tell things were off just kind of from the onstart. Things just didn't look up to par. But Parker, like you said, sometimes you have to win ugly. And I think that's kind of been a moniker for any team that's won the Premier League or even the Champions League, is sometimes you have to win those knockdown, drag out matches that aren't appealing to the fans, but at the same time, 3 points is 3 points, right? You take what you can get. If you can pull off a winner, then so be it. I mean, if you're talking about it comparatively, look at our matches against Brighton, right? We had it in hand, and then they somehow draw it back in like the 95th. It happens, but you take what you can get. Brighton was definitely happy with a point at that time. We were not happy to get a point, but if Welbeck doesn't hit that header, then we're singing a different story. So you just take what you can get, especially with things kind of getting close within that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of the table. Points are important, so you definitely grab what you can. If it's ugly, if it's not appealing, doesn't matter. Points are points.
I think a lot of the things that we've already talked about are perfectly applicable to the man on the hot seat, Big Rom. It's now been how many months since that Sky Italia interview? And it's been a struggle. Yeah, he had a good Club World Cup, scored 2 goals, but even that was kind of underwhelming. 7 touches, 2 in the first half, 5 in the second half. In all of the time that stat has been tracked, which looking back was 2003, 2004, no one has had a lower total and played 90 minutes in a match. It's mind-boggling how uninvolved. We have joked in the past about how it's basically playing with 10 men when he's on the pitch, or at least I've joked about that. It was this weekend. It absolutely was, and it was sad. And the fact that one of those touches was the kickoff of the first half makes it even worse. So I don't want to get into what did you make of Rob's performance, because there wasn't enough there to make any judgment of how he did in the times that he had. But I do want to ask the question: is it on Rom? Is the fact that he has 7 touches, is that his fault, or is it the manager / the players around him fault? Parker, we'll start with you.
Yeah, you can't analyze what you can't see, Colin. So to your point, hard to analyze his performance on the day. But I think it's more on him. Obviously, it's somewhere of a combination, but I think it's more on him. And I think I touched on it either last week or a couple of weeks ago. He's just the guy that doesn't seem to make adjustments to help his teammates out, or to benefit his squad, or to anticipate what they're doing. It seems like he's always kind of in his mind of like, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go, and you should find me because this is where I'm going. And I've seen other players sort of have to adapt and just change their approach on the pitch to kind of maximize things. And like Christian Pulisic is a great example of it. Granted, he didn't have his best game, but he's changed a little bit how he plays, and he kind of comes back to get on the ball a little bit quicker, and he's taking touches. And now if he doesn't turn the ball over, I think he's in good positions to make some stuff happen and whatnot. But he's had to change how he's played. Hakim Ziyech has had to change how he plays. He's defending more, and he's kind of getting involved earlier in the attack versus just kind of going down the sides and hoping balls get sprayed to him. That's kind of what he did in the earlier parts of the season. Rom hasn't really made these adjustments, and I think it's on him to learn his teammates a little bit more. Learn when Kai goes down, where is he looking to put the ball versus where he wants to be. And until he does that, I think he's just going to be kind of taking up space. It's so frustrating to see. I see his teammates aim for him, and the deliveries aren't always the best, which I can appreciate. It's inches perfect game, and to find people is difficult. So, but you would think if there was that synergy a little bit more, a little bit of like, hey, where I'm going and I know where you want to go, and we've done this before on the training ground 100 times, so this is clockwork now. Like, you don't see that, and I think that's the part of the game we're missing. So I think it's more on him, and I would love to see him take that step and get on the same page with his teammates a little bit more. And if not, like, talk to him, right? Like, Mace, where are you going with this ball in this situation? Like, where do you want me to be? How can I help you? What can I open up and free for you? Instead of like, hey, Mace, I'm going to be here, find me here. Like, I just think it's the selfish approach, and I think it's detrimental because it hasn't been working.
Yeah, I completely agree with everything. The only thing that I will say in Rahm's defense is that him being a big body, right? Him being this 100 million pound striker or whatever the case is, he's going to draw attention, right? He's going to work in between the two center backs. So he's going to free up space for other people to work more one-on-one. Ziyech, we know, can work one-on-one, he can work 2-on-1, 3-on-1. He can do whatever the hell he wants. Getting past that, but once teams start realizing that, Rahm is just essentially a big body who can occasionally score a goal if it's perfect, there's not much to defend, right? Like you have to give them, defenses have to give them the respect. There's no doubt about that. But at the same time, like he's got to do more. To have 7 touches, okay, fine. If we're looking at it under a microscope, that one game, nobody was playing well. Like absolutely nobody. Our man of the match award, like that was pretty easy to figure out who to give it to, right? And before that, we were trying to figure out like, well, who do we give it to? I mean, you could chalk up anybody on the defense. You could throw Mendy in there, and then outside of that, really nobody else. So to me, it's just one of those things where Rahm needs to stop being Rahm, right? He's always been that kind of player, especially since he left. He went to Man United, where he was kind of the big guy. He had a pretty good stretch there. Then he went to Italy, right? He can body most of the center backs in Italy. There's no question about that. And he was playing with Inter, and he had good service with a lot of those runs and things like that. You're coming back to the Premier League. People know about you already. It's not like he's some unknown coming back. Like people know about you. They know how you play. It shouldn't be anything new to him, but at the same time, it almost feels like it is new to him because people have figured him out. And I don't think he knows how to adjust to that.
I love everything both of you guys have said. Literally everything. All I can do is add on to it at this point. In terms of Rahm, I've seen a lot of arguments this week saying, well, he's a $100 million striker. Why aren't we adjusting the system to fit his needs, to fit how he can score, to fit how he can get involved? I mean, that it's fine. It's an argument. I'm going to leave it at that. It's an argument.
It's a weak argument at best.
It is. And here's why. We won the goddamn Champions League without him. Why do we need to adjust to him? Why are we going to change what we do, our Champions League winning strategy, Champions League winning tactics, Champions League winning formation for that? I mean, what he's doing now is essentially what Timo did the second half of last season, but Timo was more involved. So you're not losing anything goal wise by having Rahm out there. And to the argument about, well, Rahm needs to adjust. Historically, he has not. When we sent him out on loan to Everton, he was the best player on that Everton team. They adjusted to him. That's why he did well. He went to Man U, and we'll see, was that Mourinho still at that point? I believe it was. But Mourinho didn't adjust. And so the knock on Rahm, the reason why he was considered a flop at Man U despite scoring in half the games that he played, was that he was stubborn and he wouldn't adjust. And that's why he was sold to Inter. Now, I don't watch a lot of Inter games. I can't tell you if they adjusted to Rahm or not. I mean, again, at this point, we're champions of Europe. We're champions of the world. Get on board. I am 100% for the argument of 7 touches is completely on Rahm. He's not making competitive runs. He is making runs. I saw him make 4 or 5 runs, but behind the defense. But they were to places where no one can get him the ball. It's like he is so tunnel vision of this is what I'm doing, this is where I'm going, that he's not adjusting to the play around him. And it's hard to watch when we paid that much for a striker who can't adjust to what's going on around him.
The best run he made was the one where he was offside, and unfortunately he was offside, but that led to the called back goal for Ziyech. He had a shot on goal, it was saved, and Ziyech puts it in. So it was the best run he made, and I think our defenders, especially Silva and Rudiger, have been looking more for those balls, and Jorginho. They've been looking to play those balls more this game than I've seen them in a bit. So that to me screams Timo Werner. Like, if those guys are looking to play long balls, like, that's where I love seeing a Timo come in and run and get on the end of it and put something in the box and do something with it, because Timo will run for days. We know that.
And that, honestly, it's the difference. It's, again, you have similar goal output. We've talked about the win percentage when each of them starts, and I know some people are on board with that, some people aren't, but it's more aesthetically pleasing when Timo's on the field, because Timo is giving an effort. That's why the fans chant Timo's name even when he's not on the pitch. He's a fan favorite because he tries. He represents the badge. Rom seemingly does not. And let me just list off some numbers for you, because I know you guys love stats. So please take a drink. This is courtesy of Alex Goldberg. Since the interview, Rom has played in 6 games, 0 goals, 6 Premier League games, 0 goals, 0 assists, 6 shots on target, 0 out of 5 completed dribbles, 3 out of 19 in ground duels, 8 out of 26 in aerial duels, and an average of 22 touches per game. Keep in mind our wingers, who, even if they're subbed off at 60 minutes, usually average around 50 to 60 touches a game. It's stunning. I can't believe it. Those numbers are just mind-blowing to me.
It's starting to feel like when you said since the interview, right? That we're gonna know this as the interview, and it feels like the decision for LeBron James, right? Like, everything was like, oh, the decision, and so I think this is gonna be his hallmark moment of pre-interview and post-interview, and how does he react? And I hope he figures something out, man.
Quick shout out though to Sky Italia, doing work on the English game, catching Antonio Conte with a shady interview. So props to them. Spurs start looking for a new manager already. I'll take it. All right, so kind of shifting gears here from a negative to a positive. Matt, you had actually, both of you had touched on it, and it's Hakim Ziyech. He was our man of the match. I believe he had 88% of the vote. So congrats to him, and he's now second out of everybody this season for man of the match awards. Shout out to Rom, who is now second for man of the get the fuck out of here award wins. Parker, you had called it a couple months ago at this point that Ziyech was going to have a run of 4 or 5 matches where he was just going to take over. I've been riding the train since we signed him. Matt, I know you've been a little bit more hesitant, but coming around as of late. 3 goals in 3 matches for Ziyech is pretty impressive. But I want to know what you guys think of him in the grand scale of Chelsea.
Collins, I'm going to come at you real quick, because I love banter. You were also Ziyech out for a while.
Mm-hmm. I was.
I just want to say that you were also Ziyech out, and I was like, well, it's maybe not the best thing for him, and I was hesitant on that, the same way I'm very hesitant on kind of what Collins, what you had texted in our group chat, which I think kind of leads into this. about Ziyech being untouchable in a starting 11. We'll get to that. I will say that Ziyech has been our Mason Mount of last year. I feel like he is somebody that if he comes on as a sub, if he's starting, he is somebody that can take over a match without hesitation. He doesn't need anybody to tell him, okay, Hakim, go out and do what you do. No, he is somebody that we start seeing is taking the game by himself. He's not waiting for things to happen. He's making things happen on his own. And I think that's where he's at his best. I do love the fact that we've seen him take more to the defensive side of the ball. I think Collins, Parker, both you talked about it. Like, he's tracking back more. He has no problem coming back and helping start the attack, or at least clear out some options in order to get that attack going. I love what I'm seeing out of him. I'm slightly worried at the fact that we're relying on one person the same way that we relied on Mason Mount last year to produce everything. That's what worries me. We've been talking for months about, before Chills and Reese went out and they were scoring all the goals. Like, is this sustainable? Is Hakim Ziyech producing all of our goals and all of our assists? Is that sustainable? No, it's not. There's no way in hell. For a team of this much talent, of this much, just pedigree, it bothers me that we can't produce more and we have to rely on one single person. Do I think he's playing out of his mind right now? Absolutely. Like, there's no doubt about that. He is playing on a different level that we haven't seen in years out of one person. But I like to see more out of the entire team, not just one person. But for the time being, all props to Ziyech, right? He's doing anything and everything he can to basically will this team to 3 points and to trophies and everything like that. So I'm all on board with keeping him where he is at Chelsea.
So sorry, I'm gonna because I was called out. I'm gonna make a couple counter arguments here.
Go ahead, get him.
First of all, yes, I was for a little bit calling for Ziyech to be sold. Yeah, that's fair. But you hit on a couple great points there. Number one, he's tracking back playing defense. We even saw him play right wing back for a while, which is impressive for a guy who is known to be super lazy on defense. But Tuchel has turned him into a Premier League player. It's not always the prettiest, but defensively, he's at least throwing a leg out there, getting in people's way. So props to both Tuchel and Ziyech on that. But in terms of, riding one player, why not? Why is that a bad thing? And here's why. The comparison I use is baseball. It's a long season. Just like when you play at Chelsea, you play 60 some games. You're going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs, but over the course of the season, if you're hitting 280 and 20 home runs and however many RBIs, like you've had a good season. I think that's kind of what you need at Chelsea when you're playing that many games. We've seen it before with Operation Restart Pulisic. Ride him until he is literally run into the ground and then turn into a snowman in Minnesota. We rode Mason Mount for a long time. Timo Werner at the beginning of the year, we rode him. We even rode Rom at the beginning of this season, scoring 4 goals on 10 touches or something like that. It's all about ups and downs, and it's all about that player management. And honestly, as long as a player is as hot as Hakim Ziyech is right now, I think he's untouchable until he shows you over the matter of a couple of games that he has lost that touch or that skill or that magic. I think he 100% has to start. And especially, even if he is at 75, 60%, he's still whipping in 4 or 5 just sexy balls per game. And honestly, the fact that those are not going in the back of the net is not his fault. It's 100% everyone else on the squad's fault, including Rom. It's disrespectful that those balls aren't put away. I have never, so many times in my life, stood up at off of a cross and go, "Ooh, that's how beautiful these are." We are watching the second coming of Iron Robin, and I love it.
Go ahead, Parks. I'm gonna come back to Collins in a minute.
I don't have much. I mean, the ball into, I think it was Ziyech who put the ball into Christian, was on a plate, and that was, could have been a great goal. The thing that I really like about his game that I've seen evolve beyond the defense is his like link up play and his like using people as dummies for runs and also playing balls in. So is it sustainable? I feel like that's the $1 million question, Matt. I think he's still playing within the system, and I don't think he's forcing too much, which I really like. I think he's still playing, like when he's on the ball and someone makes a run, he still plays the ball sometimes, and he still fakes and goes in and still gets his guys involved in other ways. And he's trying to link up with his players. He's not just trying to go one-on-one and take people on. So that to me shows, teamwork and strategy, and he's definitely improved his game a lot. So I don't have much to add. I'll let you guys debate it out, but it's he's been the bright spot, and I love when we see these bright spots kind of come out of nowhere. When Mace came out of nowhere, it totally took the Premier League by storm. But Willian comes to mind as well. But before this era where Willian was that guy you relied on, match in, match out to create, not necessarily score, but to do something creative. And Ziyech, when he gets the ball, he does something positive more times than he doesn't. That's the best part with him is when it gets to him, whether that's the beginning of the attack or the end of the attack, it's something's gonna happen with the ball. And most of the time it's positive for Chelsea. So I love seeing him out there, and I think he's done a great job to win the fans after sort of a lackluster start to the season for him.
All right,
So
man,
I would say, so I probably didn't make this clear when I first presented it. Is Ziyech being our main goal scorer going to be a sustainable option? Because we talked about, he whips in some of the most beautiful crosses that we've ever seen. Nobody finishes on. So great, he can create all he wants. Nobody's arguing that. He's going to create, he's going to do everything. Right now, who else is going to score besides him? Give me one person who's going to score right now, who you trust to score more than Hakim Ziyech.
I think Tony Rudiger's due.
I rest my case.
I was gonna say, but no one in general, but you need someone to create in order for them to score. Sometimes you need someone to take the hard work on themselves and put you in the spot to score.
Right.
I don't trust Christian to score every time on that goal, but maybe 6 out of 10 times I do. And he's not scoring that goal without the ball in there. So
otherwise, you're seeing exactly what we saw for a lot of the game, which was Kai Havertz makes a run, gets a pass, runs it all the way to the touchline, passes back to Jorginho, who goes back to Rudiger, who goes back to Mendy, and then we do it all again.
Jorginho, the Michael Bradley of Chelsea. Yeah, I said it. I had to. But no, that's the thing is you can throw in the most beautiful crosses, but who's going to finish them? And yes, they're on a platter. I would say probably 7 times out of 10. They're on a platter for somebody to get in there and do something with. Nothing. That's, I think, the most frustrating part is that we have all these chances. We have all these opportunities that Ziyech creates. He's the one whipping in that ball. I don't trust Rom to put that away. I don't think he's going to, right now, I don't think he's going to put a ball away from, Chris Wondolowski range. which for those of you, that is like 6 yards out with an open goal. I don't trust him to put that ball away right now. Kai, I don't know what I'm getting out of Kai, kind of game in, game out from at least a scoring perspective. I have no idea. Then you look at the midfield, depending on who's playing, maybe Mount can at least put it on target. Other than that, at least in the Palace game, Jorginho and Conte, I trust none of them to put anything on goal. Even Conte, he had a good shot, but no, sorry. The fact that we're still almost relying on a Rudiger 40-yard thunderbolt to be our winner, that tells you everything you need to know about the lack of trust in our offense outside of Hakim Ziyech.
So answer me this, Matt, because I 100% understand your point that, is it sustainable for our goal scorer to be Ziyech? No, I agree with you there. It's not. But going back to the original question,
yes,
Ziyech being untouchable in the lineup based off of his recent form, yes or no? Gun to your head.
You have to throw that caveat into it. I think that he is in the starting 11. And what I told the guys in the group chat when presented this question, he has done nothing to lose that spot, but there is nobody else who can challenge him for that spot. That's kind of how I look at it. The left wing to me is wide open, right? I mean, so if we're looking at Ziyech's position on the right wing, Christian, not a shot in hell. Mount, no. From what I've seen out of him the last month and a half, there's no way he's surpassing Ziyech right now. You go to the left wing, we're running Kai, we're running Cho. I don't know why we're not running Timo, why we're not running Pulisic out there, who naturally likes to cut inside. Even run Mount out there, who also likes to cut inside. To me, the issue's on the left wing, not necessarily the right wing. I think Ziyech has that pretty solidified, unless he goes on some sort of stretch where he's just absolute trash, which I don't see right now, but it could happen. I don't see an issue with the right wing. I see an issue with the left wing.
To answer your question, Collins, I don't know why you wouldn't play your most informed player. Like in any big game scenario, I mean, Carabao Cup finals coming up in a week. I don't know why you wouldn't play him. He's been your best player, for the past 3 or 4 weeks. And it's pretty clear that he's the guy there. Matt, to your point, I'll add, I think striker's wide open too. If anyone wants to grab it, if anyone wants to come in and play as a 9 and score goals, they have it. They have the job. If that's Christian, if that's Timo, if that's Kai, or if it's Ram, if any of them plays and starts scoring goals consistently, it's their job. No one's won that job, in my opinion. No one has won that job. Left wing, same thing. And as you kind of go through the position, there are definite positions that are locked down, and there are definite positions that are not. And I think you got to play Thiago Silva. I think you have to play Tony Rudiger. I think you got to play some of those guys. I think you have to play Kovacic in a big game. The other midfielder is up for grabs if you want Conte or Jorginho. I think it's just, I think 6 of our 11 are locked down, and the other 5 are sort of debatable and mendable and malleable to who we're playing and what kind of lineup we want out there to get the most out of the game.
So let me take my question one step further, and this can just be a simple yes or no. We have 3 cup games coming up. We'll ignore the FA Cup because it's against the lower league side. You have Champions League in midweek, and you have Carabao Cup final. Does Ziyech play both games?
I guess it depends on fitness for me. I'm not sure just if he can take on that many games, but if he can, then yeah.
Yeah, I think he has to. Um, if we're looking at who else is going to replace him, nobody, at least right now. If you're looking at a starting 11, the only maybe comparable person would be Mason Mount, who seems more productive or who seems more positive than he does negative. But that would be the only other option. I think if we've conceded the Premier League, then yes, you're going after trophies. You have to start Ziyech.
And we have a bit of a easier schedule, Collins, after that. So we've got Lille and Liverpool, but then we've got Luton Town, as you said, for the FA Cup, and then we've got Burnley and then Newcastle in the league. So our schedule kind of lightens up. So if you've got to run the Ziyech hard a little bit right now, I think it's worth it for being able then to rest them a little bit on the backside of that.
Good. 100% agree with both of you. I'm glad you guys are on board. So the last kind of point I want to talk about is just that lack of creativity. I know we kind of touched on the excuses earlier, and the jet lag and the cold running through the club. But in terms of that starting 11, you've got two guys playing out of place so that Marcus Alonso doesn't have to start. You're playing a formation that we're not used to in that 4-2-2-2. Was this kind of an off game for Tuchel too?
You adapt when you have to. And I think in this scenario, he had to. You have a Crystal Palace team managed by Patrick Vieira, somebody who knows the game very, very well, especially the Premier League. And you have Crystal Palace is also a pretty young team. So they've got a lot of fresh legs that can go at you, at least in the high press and things like that. Sar over Alonso, not surprised by it. You needed somebody with a little bit more pace to be able to track back if needed. You weren't necessarily looking for service off that left side when you have Ziyech on the right. You could have thrown damn near anybody. Thought Kai played okay. Nothing to shout about, but he played okay. To me, the combination of Conte and Jorginho kind of was a little bit meh. You have somebody who is trained to distribute the ball, and you have somebody who is trained to just go get the ball back, right? And we know Jorginho, at least in my opinion, Jorginho is not the most solid on defense. He's not always willing to track back as hard as maybe some other people. And I think, as we talked about, I said, this game is calling for like Kova, because there was a lot of time where we had space in the middle. We had space to open up and nobody was doing it. Conte's not built to do that, not built to take the ball on and just run into those spaces. That's what Kova does. Like we've talked about I think it was the Palmeiras game, like this game is built for Ziyech. Like we need him to come in. This game was built for Kova because they were willing to high press, which opened up, probably 30, 40 yards out right in the middle of the field. It opened all that up for anybody to even get a chance in there. That's what he does. Did he need some time to recover? Probably. I get that. Like we've talked about, it's been a long couple of weeks for the boys. But at the same time, you have to know who your opposition is. I think he made the subs a little bit later than I would have liked. But even with the Rom offsides, Kova was in for all of 13 seconds, and he made that ball directly into Rom, and it was good to go from there. Like that's what you need. Jorginho is going to make that link up play. I don't necessarily trust him to make that through ball like Kova has done very well since he's been at Chelsea. And I think that's what the game was needing. So I'm not upset with the formation. I'm not necessarily upset with who we had to throw out there based on our schedule. I was a little bit more upset at when we made the subs because they made an immediate impact once they were on the pitch.
Matt, I agree with most of everything what you said. I'll make 2 quick points to further the conversation. I thought Conte got lost in the game. That was kind of my take. I just didn't see him popping up in the spaces where he needed to, and I thought he just kind of got lost out there a little bit. And it doesn't really help the situation when the one time you do find the ball at your feet in front of goal and you kind of put it right at the goalie. I know Conte is not known for his scoring, but he definitely knows how to hit a corner kind of when you have to pass the ball into it. So I was a little disappointed in his performance overall. Just didn't seem to be the right fit for the right match kind of a thing. And I agree, Matt. I think Kova was built for the match. So I think that would have been to help unlock some of that creativity. But the other thing I think about from a creativity standpoint is it's always hard to break down a team when you control possession and when it's not like an open match. I think it's a lot harder to be creative when you're just kind of marching in, when there's 11 behind the ball and you're marching into their area and their territory. And it's hard to be creative in those spaces. And so the guys I think need a little bit more one touch, a little bit more work off each other. And I saw it more down the right than I did the left. The left, I thought Kai would try to get to the byline and make something happen. The right, I saw a little bit more interplay between Pulisic and Ziyech and those guys down there. So I thought they're a little bit more creative down the right than the left. I just think they need more of it and different looks, different runs, different kind of chances to break people down where you and I and we all watch the matches. We can kind of say like we know what they're going to do. We know how they're going to flow, and if we can see it, then Palace knows what's going on too. I always feel that if the average fan can kind of look at it and see it, then it's not creative enough to break down the defense, and you have to have that like oohs and ah moments of doing something that no one expects and making the run that no one kind of sees coming. So change the play up a little bit. But Matt, I thought you hit it on the head, so I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, and the thing about Conte, you talking about him kind of looking lost in the game. He's not an attacking midfielder. I don't, and this goes back even to when Sarri was managing. I don't get why he is so involved in the attack. He's not an attacking midfielder. He's not exceptionally known for his passing. He's up there for the high press. That's about it. Yeah, he can defend. We all know that. But he's more there for the work rate and for the attack on the press, or for the high press. But that's something I don't want to sacrifice when we're trying to break down a team. Like, he is not somebody that I would think of if we're trying to break down a team. If they're putting, 8-9 behind the ball, I'm not trusting Conte to have that, that link up player, that magical pass to free somebody up. That's just not how I see him as a player. He's great in the press. He's great on defense. He'll win the ball back. Like, I'm not arguing that, but to have him as a part of the attack, I don't really understand that. I would see that as more of a, if we're looking at, if you're starting Jorginho and Conte, that would be more Jorginho. I trust Conte more defensively and with speed going back on a counter than I would Jorginho.
That's where I think the formation was weird for who was playing. If we want to use the jet lag, we want to use the cold and all the partying in Abu Dhabi as an excuse. As a coach, why aren't you making it as comfortable as possible for the team in that next match, for a fatigued team, for a tired team, for an ill team? play that usual formation. The only thing I could possibly think of was Alonso and Dave had to sit because they're older and you have 2 important matches coming up. So maybe kind of looking past this one. But Matt, you're spot on there. And I don't say that very often. You're spot on with the midfield observation. It's when you're doing the 4-2-2-2, you're basically, when you have Conte there, you're playing with 4 in attack against 9 in defense. If we were in our normal 3-5-2 or whatever you want to call it, then at least you have additional guys up there in support. You've got the wing backs coming in. You've got so many extra outlets. With this, it was basically you have Jorginho and you have Conte, and then in front of them you have Ram, who is a -1 player, and then Kai and Ziyech and God, I don't even was Christian. Thank you. God, he was such a nothing too. That
he was floating around nowhere land.
Yeah, bouncing balls off people's shins for no fucking reason.
Halter ball.
Yeah. It was mind-boggling to me. And Matt, you also mentioned earlier the subs being a little late, and it's been a couple matches now that he's been doing that. And it's starting to annoy me. But that being said, I'll go back to what I said earlier in the pod. We're European champions. We're world champions. Can't really question the methods too much. Speaking of champions, we did have a question, follower question this week. And of course, I do not have it up here.
Pause for technical difficulties.
Yeah, right.
Well, you do the best you can.
I do know it is from great friend of the pod, Badger Hopper, even though he is a Dortmund fan. We appreciate him listening. And I did not publish Pod After Dark this week. I realized today where I was bashing Dortmund not being a Champions League club. So
Collins, you'll have to post that one later.
A bonus for Pod After Dark.
Yes.
Says longtime listener, first time caller. What's your meaning the club's biggest opposition to winning the Premier League? Is it a signing or is it in-house? FYI, he's a big Tuchel fan himself. I'll let you guys start on this one. What is our biggest obstacle towards winning the league?
I'll make it short and sweet, but I think our biggest obstacle is the amount of freedom that Tuchel gets. I've been the big proponent of we need a consistent manager that has a chance to implement a system and his ideas and get the players that he feels fit the system in the best way. So I think time and patience and giving Tuchel some of the resource that he needs to, sometimes you have to make decisions that are not necessarily best for the short term, but the best for the long term. And feel like the fear of short-term growing pains is always plagued Chelsea managers, in the sense that if they know that if they lose 3 or 4 matches in a row, they might be dead. And so, but sometimes you have to make those hard decisions in order to implement change that you believe in the long term wins you championships. And I know with Chelsea, you get a lesser leash than other clubs. And so it's got to be somewhere in the middle there. But I think the biggest obstacle we have is time and patience.
Parker, I completely agree. Collins, I'm gonna kind of steal probably your thought. I'm gonna split the fence. I think that we need a manager with time, like Parker said. I also think that we need a striker who can consistently score. I think the last striker that we had that could consistently score was Diego Costa. And before that, Drogba. And that's going back, 20-25 years? And I can list off 2 strikers that we could actually rely on. I think that's the biggest thing. I think we need a striker that can actually produce on a consistent basis. You look at all the teams that are or that have been winning the Premier League. Usually they have a consistent striker. I'm ruling City out of this because City is just a fucking spoiler riches. They can do whatever the hell they want, and Pep is just Pep. But if you go back and look at everything, you have a consistent striker. You have somebody that can link up with your wingers. You look at Liverpool, right? Mane, Salah, Firmino. Like when they actually won it. Now they have Diego Jota, right? He's coming into his own. So now you got 4 people that can go up and just score at will. Who do we have that can just kind of score at will? Who do we have that can actually just kind of link up and just distribute all those goals? And, you end up with 4 people in like the top 10 of goal scoring for the year. Nobody.
Absence Hazard.
Yeah, like we have absolutely nobody. I think we need a striker that can consistently produce within the system that Tuchel has been given time to create. That to me is the biggest thing that we need at the club in order to go above Liverpool and City. Because right now I think those 2 are the upper echelon, and I think we're kind of chomping at the bit to be up in that category.
So my answer actually wraps up both of yours, I think. We need a technical director. There's too many hands in the pot right now. So I think our biggest obstacle is in-house. You have Marina, who is a great businesswoman, makes great deals. That's what she's known for, is thrifty, right? Sometimes to the detriment of the club, but other times, it's great. You got Tuchel, who's got a hand in the pot, which he should. He's the manager. It's his team, his system. You've got Petr Cech in there for some reason. And then you've got Roman, who apparently chimes in on the bigger deals. And again, his club, I think everybody has a fair right to have their hand in the pot, but it's not success. It's not a way to lead to success. You need, for the Americans here, a general manager. You need a director of football, a technical director. You need somebody like Michael Emenalo was for a long time, a guy who has the long-term vision of the club in mind. He was the one who was pushing for the academy and the loan army and all of that. But with the way that we treated managers for a very long time and still do, a lot of that went to waste. A lot of it was just adding money to the coffers. I think bringing in somebody who has experience with that, getting Marina out of there, getting, make her the accountant, make Petr a special advisor. But you need somebody who has the long-term vision of the club in mind, and somebody who can plan beyond the next manager, plan 10 years down the road. So my answer is that our biggest obstacle is in-house.
I will add to your in-house, and it is a broader kind of question between European sports and American sports. We always see people, get brought on as like, special consultant or, youth academy advisor or things like that. What do those job titles actually mean? I see a lot more of that in the European game than I do in like the American game. Like, what do those roles even mean? Like, do we just have too many specialized roles in European football that, we just bring back, Petr Cech, John Terry, like things like that. Like, we bring them back as like consultants or advisors, like, but what are they actually doing? It seems like there's a lot of that, almost to bring back people just give them a title just to bring them back.
I think there is some of that. I think some of it is, to keep club legends or, people who have been very loyal to the club on the books into retirement. But I also think that there's a lot of validity to it, because you look at Ashley Cole was a special advisor to the youth academy. He's now on Lampard's staff at Everton. We had the pleasure of meeting Tore Andre Flo, who had one of those positions. He's now a coach somewhere in Norway, I think.
Yeah.
Head coach out there. And I think we do also have that in the American game. Maybe not MLS, because MLS is such a weird outlier, but The Milwaukee Brewers Craig Counsell for a long time was a special advisor to the general manager, and he's now the manager of the Brewers. You see it in the NFL all the time, where guys who offensive linemen who had been there for 20 years are all of a sudden the special advisors. It's Matt, I think you're right. I think there is a lot of it. Maybe you trim down the fat a little bit on some of that, but at the end of the day, if you want to reward some club legends, I'm not sure how much input they actually have outside of Petr Cech.
And John Terry is head of NFT specialties, right? Like that's
it's so annoying.
I'm sorry, JT. I had to throw that one in there, but
he's the head of housing for all of the wives and girlfriends of players of the club.
That too. He's got a dual role.
Working overtime.
It's always a little bit of PR, and you never really know how much work those guys do behind the scenes and how much they care and how much of it, lip service and stuff. But the guys that get promoted on, I think, earn it, right? That after you get that kind of cushy job, the sort of retirement package, as Colin put it, then you earn it as getting a coaching job. And as coaches, you guys see it, like people, you have to start out somewhere. You have to start out as a helper for a 16B team, and then you get an assistant JV team, and then you get this team, and then eventually you're coaching high school, and then you're coaching college. Like there's a path to this, and I think it's no different in soccer. And we see it because people get the high end or high profile people get those jobs, but I think it's just a little bit more commercial in that sense. I believe in business it happens, and I believe in soccer it happens, but I also believe that your name is only going to get you so far, and that your end product and your productivity and how much you care and how much you put into it is what you get out of it eventually. And people know who really cares and who really wants to be there and who really wants to promote the brand further and forward and get stuff done. So that stuff, it's the found out principle, is you can only fake it so long, and you're going to get found out eventually. So if they are sort of fraudulent in that matter, but you do see it more, Matt. I do definitely agree with you. You'd see it a lot more, and it's kind of funny because I don't think we're as exposed to it, but I also think we're closer to Chelsea than we are pretty much any other club. So we see it firsthand more often than not.
All right. Well, this week we do have Lille in midweek for the Champions League, and then Liverpool for the Champions League final. I may have Joe Mach back on not for the Champions League final. Jesus.
Carabao Cup. Come on, man.
I've had more than a fistful of bourbon on this pod.
2 fistfuls.
I wish, but we ain't there yet.
Pot of forgot. So anyways, we have a cup final this weekend versus Liverpool. We'll see if our friend Joe Mach, resident Liverpool expert, comes on. But in the meantime, you can follow us on Twitter, myself at Comiskey North, Parker at DJ Parkour, Matt at Matus Lee, and the pod itself at Flag Down Pod. We did just reach 500 Twitter followers, so thank you to everyone who puts up with our BS and our nonsense. We do have a YouTube page. We have Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. We are now on iHeartRadio, if that's what you use for your podcasts. Otherwise, Apple, Spotify, Google, all that good stuff. Please subscribe, rate, and review. Boys, it's been a pleasure, and we will talk to you next week.
I'm all potted out.